Hey, Brandon here with Remix Church. In my church, we're going through a series right now called That's Not What That Means. And this is a series where we're looking at verses and subjects where Christians have taken out of context biblically and they're using it wrong. And we've been doing that on Sunday mornings at 10:45 here in Maryland Heights. We'd love to have you. But we do have some verses and subjects that we thought, you know what, they don't warrant a Sunday morning, but they could have a little good sit-down time, and we decided to stick these on our social media. So we have a topic today, and the topic comes up like this. I had a woman who came up to me and she said, hey, Pastor, I want you to know that your tattoos are really visible when you preach. And I thought, good. But I knew what she meant. She meant they shouldn't be visible whenever I was teaching and preaching. And she said, I know you probably got all those before you were a Christian, but I just want you to know. And so here's the topic. Are tattoos sinful? Are they bad? Are they wrong? Am I wrong for being a Christian who enjoys my tattoos? So, what verse in the Bible is being taken out of context? So we're going to be going to the book of Leviticus real quick, and we're going to be looking at chapter 19, verse 28. And in God's word, what's going on here is the Israelites, they came out of Egypt, they're becoming their own people group. God's working on them. He's talking to all, and there are other people groups around, and God is saying, I don't want you to be like those people. Be my people. You are mine. I am yours. And so he goes through this list of things where he says, don't do that. And this is one of those things that comes up. So here's the verse, Leviticus 19. I'm going to go back to 26 because it's just rapid fire things. So 26 says, you shall not eat any flesh with the blood in it. Apparently other groups were doing that, eating raw stuff. You shall not interpret omens or tell fortunes. Apparently there were some dark things going on in other groups. You shall not round off the hair on your temples or mar the edges of your beard. I, by nature, have already messed that one up, and I don't know what to do about that. And then here's our verse. It says in 28, you shall not make any cuts on your body for the dead, or tattoo yourselves. I am the Lord. So what was going on? Well, when we look at the Old Testament, we know the people groups around, even people groups today. We have something called ancestral worship. And people are worshiping the dead. And that is a no-no, right? It's one thing to have respect for the dead. It's one thing to look back on our ancestors and maybe be thankful or look at the processes and the things that they did. It's another thing for me to have a shrine, a private shrine that I go and I worship those people as gods. But that's very common throughout the world, and it was very common in the time that this was written. And so God says, you don't do that. Don't mark up your body to go worship those ancestral gods. Don't do that. You're different. You're set apart. You're mine. And so that's what's going on here. It's not about marking your body up. In fact, there's a couple of spots in the Bible that I'll show you where God leans to this idea of marking up his body. Right? Isaiah is one that comes to mind. So in Isaiah 49:16, what's going on there is that the Israelites, they're saying to God, like, we feel like you're not noticing us. And God's like, are you kidding me? And he says here in Isaiah 49:16, he says, behold, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Not only do I know you intimately to where you are etched in. The word is, it's the same word for it's tattooed. You are tattooed into my hands. I know you. That's one spot. And then in Revelations 19:16, we have Jesus, and Jesus is figuratively pictured with a tattoo on his thigh. And that tattoo, it says on the robe, on his robe and on his thigh, he has the name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Jesus with a tattoo. So what's going on with tattoos? Well, biblically, there's nothing really against a tattoo, but there is some areas where we need to show grace and mercy to those around us, especially if you want your church, and I believe you probably do, to be multi-generational. Tattoos have been tied in the past, in generations, to things that were not of God. Tattoos were tied to, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, a whole people group, because when they looked at that people group, those were the ones getting the tattoos, the deviants, the folks like that. Millennials, Gen Z don't really look at tattoos like that anymore. So there is a generational difference that we need to show grace and kindness towards as we lovingly come alongside people who struggle. I was with a lady just yesterday who told me, she said, I've never seen anyone preach on a stage with tattoos. And, all of my tattoos, they all have biblical connections. In fact, I have the gospel right here, and I give out the gospel when someone asks what that tattoo means. So it's not about the fact that you have tattoos, but there is some idea that we need to be generous and loving towards those that don't quite understand why you would. But I think that is a place to go. You need to ask yourself, why do I want a tattoo? Do I want it to glorify God? Do I want it because I think it's pretty? Do I want it because it means something to me? Why are you getting it? So there's some things that you should know, you should ask yourself, because you want to be careful not to make anything on your body an idol. You know what I mean? And the things that we typically put on us, those are things we care about, and they can be idols in our life. And so be careful and weary of that. But no, tattoos aren't sinful. There's one other area I want you to go to. I want you to think about, if you're thinking about getting a tattoo. As a person who has a lot of experience in this area, I've never gone to a tattoo shop or a tattoo artist who were sold out for Jesus. Never have. Never met that one yet. I know they exist, I know of them, but I haven't had one come into contact with me. So you have to prepare your own heart for what you're going into. Are you willing to have someone that doesn't care about your beliefs, who really is interested in that dinero? Like, would you let them put a marking on your body? What I choose to do is I use that time for witnessing. I use that hour or 2 hours to sit and talk with someone and get really deep. And I think it's worth it, especially if they're a great artist. But you got to know that person, and you got to know your surroundings, because a lot of these shops and things, the surroundings are not godly. You're going to hear cuss words, you're going to hear things like that. But if you're doing it with the right intentions, the right heart, a tattoo, it's just an act of creativity. It's just an act of honoring God as mine. It's just an act of you showing your personality. There's nothing really wrong with it in the Bible. But if you got any more questions, you can drop a comment, and I'd love to continue the conversation. All right, we'll talk to you later.